Hey, it's Matt with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and it's Monday, and it's April 7th. This will be our chart lesson today, and I don't know if I ever remember a day this crazy before. Um, we gapped down, traded all the way down to close to 4,800. Let's see what the actual low is here. 48.32. So we were within 32 points of being at 4,800. And it wasn't very long ago we were up here at 6,200. So that's a huge, that's the biggest drop, 1, 2, 3, in 4 days that I can remember. Now I'm not saying it's the biggest drop in 4 days ever. There's probably, maybe my memory's not that good, but I honestly don't remember a market ever moving 400 points in one day, and we did that today. Um, you can see from the low to the high is 454 points, and we did that in 30 minutes. Mind you, I'm not talking about it a day or a week or a month. We did that in 30 minutes because we bottomed out here and that thing rocketed straight up, and then we brought a lot of it back. So this market is still way oversold, and that's the problem you got to worry about in a bear market like this. It starts to get real emotional, and people start lose all their common sense, and they start trading off emotion, and they're thinking about how much money they lost or how much money they can make, and they make irrational decisions, and they the worst thing you can do is sell down here. I'm sure when it hit down here, there's some people saying if it gets there, I'm done. I can't take anymore. Or do you get, the real problem is you getting all these margin calls. That's why I never trade on margin, because you get these margin calls, and you know it's probably going to come back. And usually those margin calls will come at the low, at the bottoms, and they'll start calling margin and people, and so it just kind of, it's like a snowball. It starts selling and people start jumping on, then they start calling margins and you get more selling, and it's just like a snowball. And then suddenly the buying comes in, or the selling kind of dries up and the buying comes in, and everybody says, "Oh no, I'm selling at the bottom," and they all jump back in and start buying, looking for a bargain, and next thing you know, we're 400 points higher. And so it can, rallies can just rocket straight up because everybody gets scared, and then everybody's already sold. Everybody gets scared and sells out, or then everybody thinks there's a bottom, and once it starts going, then all the short covering stops. People that are shorting all this stuff, and the next thing you know, boom, it's just rocketing higher. Um, if we could have closed up here, I would say this was a really great day, but we still closed higher than we did Friday. But there's a lot of steam here. But that's a positive to close from where we were down to 4,800. So we closed almost 200 points higher. I would guess we did close 200 points higher. Let's just look and see. Yeah, basically 170 points higher, maybe 180, somewhere right in there. Uh, Pretty incredible day, to be honest. I just don't remember a day like this ever. And maybe it's just my memory. Maybe I'm wrong, but I honestly do not ever remember trading a day like this before. And there's so many trades. So I'm not going to beat around the bush. I'm going to flip over there to the chart so we can get through the trades and not be here all day long. So let's flip over to the 2000 tick chart and take a look at it. And here it is. You can see it looked like we were going to maybe be range bound early on, but that left this gap. Here's where we closed Friday, and that left that gap. But we shot through that like it was never there. And then you're looking for a measured move based on the width of the range. And we shot through that like it was not there. And then finally the market says, "Oh, we're overdone," and it just takes it all back, and comes back, and it tests this a few times till it finally holds and goes higher. And we really just kind of chopped around after that. Once this rally, it took most of that back. We just kind of chopped sideways, and we did trend up a little bit into the close. And prior to that, we're making higher highs and higher lows here on a bigger picture. You can see the lows are down here, and then we're making higher lows, and then we're making higher lows yet again. We didn't make higher highs here, but have we bottomed out? I have no idea. I wouldn't even try to call this market. Anything could happen tomorrow. It could be red hot down, or it could be red hot to the high side. I mean, I wouldn't even want to try to call it. I mean, the price action. I mean, you can't tell anything by that daily chart now. Um, I mean, it looks like it might have bottomed out, but I wouldn't even want to try to call it. So we'll have to wait and see what tonight brings with the overnight, and then how it opens tomorrow. But I wouldn't surprise that. I personally, I think everybody's gotten this tariff thing all blown out of proportion. I mean, you've already got countries, backing up. We've already got Argentina, Vietnam, Cambodia. There's a few others that they're going to waive all of their. I think Canada, they're going to waive all of their tariffs if we waive ours. So, I mean, I think that was what Trump really expected to happen. Maybe some of them didn't give. He wants to. It's going to be who blinks first, in my opinion. But even if it doesn't, in the long run, if these countries don't drop the tariffs, all it's going to do is it's going to create. They're going to have to build things here, and it's going to create jobs. It's going to ignite the economy, and it may take a little bit. So we may have to feel the pain first, but I think in the long run, it's going to be good for the country. And I could be wrong, and I won't be afraid to say I was wrong if I am wrong. But right now, I think Trump knows what he's doing, and I think he's trying to call some of them's bluff, and the ones he doesn't call the bluff, we'll fight it out with him until somebody blinks. And I don't see Trump blinking, so China's the big one. I think they said they were going to double all their tariffs again. So the cheap stuff from China may be coming to an end, at least for a while. We'll have to see. But anyway, let's zoom in here and let's get through these trades. There's a good bit of, there's quite a few. But early on we were in this range and we were working down off the top. So we're obviously looking for shorts here after we kind of topped out here. And we had this trend channel working down. You could see it working down, and we had a break and a close outside right here. Let me zoom in just a tad. This thing is so big. I mean, if I zoom in, you can't see the big picture, and if I zoom out, you can't see anything because it's just that kind of day. But you can clearly see the new low there. We made kind of a double bottom, and then you get a first entry, and there's this clear second entry with a nice signal bar. Now, don't get me wrong, it's 70 ticks. But, if you want to trade right now, that's what you're looking at. 67 ticks. 66 ticks. 100 ticks. These are just single bars. So, I mean, honestly, most of you should only be sim trading right now. You need to be very careful in this market because you can see one bar, a 70 tick bar is worth, how much is that worth? 1250 times 70. That's an $875 bar. But if you can't get 4 ticks off of 70, entering on a 70 tick bar, then you got serious chart reading problems. So, but honestly, I think most average traders should only be sim. You can't afford to pass up trading this to get the experience, but you can't afford to trade it live. So what you need to do is just be sim trading it. And that's really all you could ask for. But anyway, a clear second entry, looking for a retest of the lows. That was about as simple entry as it comes, but it's 70 ticks for your signal bar. So you got to be aware of that. And then you got the same thing here. The only problem here is that's the first close outside, so it may try to go higher, which it does, but it fails, and then you're trending down. Close outside, new low, and then it reverses. And there's just no setups here. There is a second entry long here, but the signal bar is no good. So now you got your close outside new high, and it turns down. No signal bars. It was kind of slow going here early on. And then we got this trend line, but I don't see a single setup down through there at all. And then we kind of went sideways here. But you can clearly see the triple test. And then this signal bar is only 36 ticks. So that's, even though that's huge, that's a big improvement. And you got plenty of room to get out. So I like that one. These were just continuing to work down. Then we had a little rally here that led to nothing really. And then finally we bottomed out. And then this is where it started. And you can see it was straight up for 400 and something points there. 416 points in 33 minutes. It's incredible. So I like this one. It's a second entry long. It's also a higher low after we've had a break and a new low in place. And you've pretty much got a double bottom, so it's a higher low, second entry long, good signal bar. Again, it's 38 ticks, but that's better than 70 or 90 or whatever you were seeing earlier. And so I like going long there. I think it's a little aggressive, especially in a market like this, because you can't afford to be wrong. So I only marked it green. But if you catch that trade, I mean, literally, if you just wait to the first bar that closes outside and put your sell stop one tick below it, you would have got stopped out right there. So if you just caught one contract there, you made 83 points on one single runner. So that's a very nice profit right there. And that was easy. And you get your close outside, a few swings up, and then it turns down, and we're just kind of chopping along. And I think you could call that a triple test by here, but I don't like the signal bar. But then you get a higher low right here, and it's also, there's a new high there, so there's a first entry, second entry. So a break above that's a second entry long. And you get the same thing again. It just takes off. And if you do the same thing again, put your sell stop one tick above the first bearish bar that closed. And I don't even know if I'd call that bearish, so you might have waited till here. But really, I would probably realistically put it right here. And there's your 132 points on one runner. So if you can get 132 points, that's 6,000. That's almost $7,000 on a single runner. You know, if you're trading, say you trading 5 runners there, do the math. That's 30 something $1,000 in 1 minute and 55 seconds. I can't even believe I'm reading that. I can't even believe I'm saying that. 131 points in a minute and 55 seconds. Honestly, I don't ever remember seeing it. It's a once in a lifetime kind of deal. And then then we get the trend working down and it just breaks out and takes off again. Here you got a clear second entry, a higher low, and this one's only 56, so it's not as bad. And another move up, and then we topped out and it turns down. I mark this as a maybe. You can clearly see a first entry, second entry. It looks a little sideways and congested, so I'm a little wary of it, but maybe you take it. It just depends on. We're in a down. We're starting to sell off here now, but we do have a break and a new low already, so you got to be careful. But it looks like we're setting up another trend line here, so maybe you take that. And you just don't get much else here, and then you're trending up, and I just don't see anything on any of this stuff. It's just the market's just, there's no rhyme or reason to it. And then finally you get back inside the range. Notice we're back in the range here. And you get a first entry, second entry, right at a key entry point. It breaks higher first and turns down. I don't know that I would go short right there, but I wouldn't have any problem trading that one on the engulfing bar. And you got to be careful with that. That's kind of you got to be real careful with engulfing bars. Most new traders should leave them alone because you'll get burned by them. The only time I like trading them is when the previous bar is super bullish if you're going short or super bearish if you're going long. And what happens is that big bullish bar traps people thinking that we're going higher again. And it breaks higher, traps them and turns down. And you can see that it rockets down real fast, and then it finds support and it reverses. And you got a triple test here. One, two, three. And those have got, I thought those had a 2-bar matching low. Let me make sure they do, because if they don't, I don't know that I'd take that trade. 87 and a quarter. Yeah, 87 and a quarter. I thought they had matching lows. It doesn't look like it right there, but they do. And so you can take that trade, and boom, off it goes again. Here there's a hidden second entry, but I wouldn't, if you draw your trend channel line, you don't get anything there. I mean, it never get a break and a new low or anything, so I wouldn't take that hidden second entry. And it just keeps going. This looks like 2 legs back, but even the signal bar is questionable. Here you definitely get 2 bars back, and you get a break and a new low. That's just a second entry long. I don't know how big that bar is, 42 ticks, but I mean, everything's big. But you can see how much room you get, even when it doesn't go anywhere. I mean, that went almost 9 points. So you easily get your scalp. I mean, just so much easier to get a scalp because everything moving so big and so fast. Now you got another triple test here and a big signal bar setup. Don't trade that in engulfing, but I like if it closes, go long there. Again, it's 86 ticks, but it is what it is if you're going to trade this. Runs up, turns down, and we just rock it straight down. Then we get a correction. There is a second entry short right there. You can't trade that on the engulfing bar, and this bar is 150 ticks, so you can't go. And you're already past the low. You can't go a little short right there. I mean, you could, but and it didn't take much heat. Most breakouts fail, and the breakout was trying to fail here. You'll hear me say that all the time. Most breakouts will fail. Even if it's only temporary, 90% of the time they're going to fail. The odds are on your side if you get a setup back on to back into the range on a breakout. That's what I mean by fading the trade, a breakout. The breakout breaks out to the high side, then you want to fade it and go short. If it breaks out to the short side, you want to fade it and go long. Of course, you got to wait on the setup, but that's the short version is you want to fade that trade and take the opposite entry. Here we get back in and we're working up, and you can clearly see the trend there. You get your first break outside, but you got a first entry, turns down again, and when it breaks higher there, again, that's an engulfing bar, but wait for it to close. As long as you got room back to that resistance, take it, and there's plenty of room there. And you see it does find resistance, but it ends up taking on off anyway. And then you get a second entry short on another breakout there. And this is played out with a break and 2 legs up. So I like going short just to ride it back to the EMA, and maybe it takes off. And it does end up moving on down. Close outside, new low. Higher low, but no setup. And then you're working higher again. But again, I just don't see any setups here. You get a close outside, move to a new high, and close outside, and you try to get a second leg up, and now you get a triple test right here. That's a 2-bar matching high, so you can use this signal bar. Just go short right there. There's plenty of room back to the EMA. Of course, it's 64 ticks, but compared to some of them, it's small. And here you get a first entry, second entry. It looks a little congested, like a failed breakout too, but there's clearly, let me just mark it for you. There's clearly a move up right there. Now you don't get well, it's hard to say if you get a convincing close outside. It's probably more from that bar. And it probably looks more like that, and you get the close outside and new high all in one bar. But it's clearly a second entry, and we're looking for, and it's a pullback, and you notice we tested that EMA, 1, 2, 3. I think you're safe to go short there. And that bar is only 40 ticks. There's another first entry, second entry here, but that you got 2-bar matching low, and it looks really sideways. It looks like you're finding support on right there. It turns out there's a midline across there for another range. You wouldn't have had that yet, but you can clearly see there's some support across there. It does run on down, close outside, and move to a new low. It just barely makes a new low, and then it takes off. And there was a second entry short here. If you'd entered that on the engulfing bar, I think you were safe. But I would wait, and I don't see anything else here that would make me want to enter that. Runs up, close outside, move to a new high. Now you got a first entry, second entry, but you can't use that for a signal bar. There's your first break, and so that's like a third entry or something. There is a lower high here. It has a little bit of stem, but I think you could argue for that to be green. Or there's plenty of room back to the EMA, and that's all you're really worried about. And really, this is a range, so you're more worried about um, the midline down here and the lowest line. So we're probably headed to the other side, and that's kind of what happens. I didn't like this setup here, even though we tried to go higher multiple times, simply because it looks congested across there. And then you get a break here, and you get a first entry, second entry, but you get a close outside new high, and I think you can argue you got a triple test right there. So I like that trade for another short. One, two, three. And it looks like two legs up as well. Even though you got a little tick lower right there, it looks like a leg up, first entry, leg up, second entry. So I like that one. Bounces down here but no setup, and it runs straight up the other side. First entry, tries to go higher, and when it turns back down, you get a second entry. It was actually a second entry when it went past that bar. But I like just trying to ride this back to the EMA. We're still way away from the EMA. And you can see that it went even further than that. Close outside, turns up here, but I don't see anything that would make me want to enter. This is all kind of choppy and sideways. And then it pushes higher, comes back. I would draw my trend line. Pretty much comes back and confirms it there, but no setup. And there's just no setups up through here. They're all just kind of first entries. There is a second entry right here, but we just came off the high, so we're probably headed back to the low. If you took it, it works, but I think you need to draw your trend channel line here and follow the rules. Actually, this one looks flatter than that. It's probably going to be off that high right there. Yeah, that looks a lot better. It fits much better. So close outside, move to a new low, and that clearly looks like a leg down, a correction, a second leg down. So to me, that looks like a second entry. Boom, go long right there. It doesn't end up taking off, but you would have scalped out, and probably any runners would have been stopped out at break even. You had a higher low here that I thought you'd get another entry, but it can't break higher until this bar, so you can't enter with this being your signal bar. And notice how we're working sideways here, and it breaks out. It's counter trend, but this has been really choppy since then. So where were we? I lost my place here. Was this it? Breaks out. No. I guess we were talking about this one. Yep, right here. So I marked it green because you need to wait on the lower high, and that comes right here. And there's still a lot of stem there. So I don't know that you really want to take that trade. I marked it as a lower high, as an engulfing bar, but I don't. I think I misread it or something, because I don't think that breaks higher. No, I think you got to scratch that one. And then here you get a first entry, second entry, and it confirms that trend line. So very bearish bar. It's a big one, but 55 ticks. We've seen a lot worse. And quick, easy move. There's still plenty of room to get out there. All these breakouts down here just have very bearish bars. And then we break out up here again. That's an inside bar. But here's your lower high right here. Very good bar. Go short right there. Nothing here. And here you got a trend working up, close outside, new high. You get a lower high here, but I didn't like it for the stem and the 2 bar matching low. But he comes back and makes a double top, and so you really got at least a triple test across there and another bearish bar. I like going short right there. And runs down. Notice how we didn't get down to the bottom, and you get your close outside. Takes off again. These are all just first entries. There was a second entry here, but I don't like the signal bar. You got an engulfing bar. And you do have a close outside now and a new low, but I don't think I'd go long. There's not a lot. We're not that far away from the EMA, and we haven't gotten to the lows the last couple of swings, so there's a good chance we're going higher. I think you need a higher low here, though. It did break lower and turn up, and then go out, so it's probably going to trap some people. You can see how it kind of took off. I'm hesitant to market, but it was really choppy here, so it wouldn't be out of the ordinary to try to pick, I still think you need a higher low. Just like here, you need a lower high, and you get that here. And even then, it looks congested. But then you got another lower high here. You basically got a double top with a lower high, so that's a good signal bar. I like that one. If it breaks below that, it's probably going on down. And try to make another new low. And that just takes us into 230. So really crazy day. Market hadn't opened back up. It's after 5, so we'll see what happens when it does come back around here in about 25 minutes, 25 minutes. But there's another wide look at it, big higher level look at it. Crazy, crazy day. If you traded live, I hope you had success. And if you didn't, you were probably smart. And if you're not doing anything but sitting here watching, at least get on the simulator and try to trade this stuff. I mean, you may not get another chance at something like this for a while, so you want to get experience of every type market situation we're going to have, so no matter what you see, you know how to trade it. So never turn down the opportunity to sim trade the market, because it's like if you want to be a professional musician, never turn down a chance to play, because the more you play, the better you're going to get. If you're a professional athlete, let's say you're a baseball player, never turn down a chance to get to practice and play, because the more you practice, the more you play, the more you hone your skill set, especially when you're playing with professionals. So, if you're going over to sit down with your neighbor who can only pick, or you can go down to the symphony hall and play with a guy that's professional. Go play with a guy that's professional so you can learn something from him. And you're playing with better people. Same thing with trading. Don't spend your time in a forum talking about all this stuff. Turn that off. Get on the simulator and trade it. Trade it with the professionals. I mean, there's no better way to learn. I mean, I wish they'd have had this when I first learned. They didn't have sim trading and all that. That came along long after, I'd been trading for a long time. I used to have to order my charts. I mean, I'm not as old as you think I am, but y'all probably think I'm 90 years old, hobbling in here with a cane every day the way I talk. But that's just how much technology's changed in the last 25 years. I had to order my charts, and it'd take them a week to come. So might have been a week old before they got printed. And so they were weeks to months old before you ever got them to study them. So think about that. And now it's instantaneous, and you can look at the live data as it prints to your chart live. And there's no excuse for not sim trading as much as you can, because it's the same. You're trading the same live data that you would be if you were trading live. So if you can do it sim trading, if you can teach yourself to do it sim trading, then you can do it live. The only thing holding you back then would be mental. If you've proven you can do it on the simulator, the only reason you couldn't do it live would be mental. So anyway, that's 30 minutes worth. I'm going to wrap it up. We'll be back again to do it tomorrow. We'll see what happens tomorrow. Like I said, I have no idea what to expect. I've never seen it. I don't remember ever seeing anything like this. So it's pretty crazy times. We're probably making history here. May not ever do this again. It might be 100 years before it does it again. Who knows? So participate in it as best you can. Be careful about trading live. Be wise, be wise, be wise, because they will take your money before you can blink an eye. You can't make a mistake when the market moves like this, because one mistake and boom, you're probably, you can get a lot of slippage in a move like that too. So not only are you probably going to lose, you're going to lose more than you think you're going to lose. So be very, very careful. Only trade with money you can afford to lose. Otherwise, get on the simulator. And then you don't have to worry. If you blow your simulator, nobody's hurt but your pride. And you still probably learn from it. So don't be afraid to get on that simulator and just don't trade this stuff. Uh, anyway, I'm going to wrap it up. We'll be back again to do it tomorrow. This is Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and we'll see you next time.